So, The Union Within is a coming of age film which I wrote based on the process of shadow integration, which is a concept in metaphysics which defines the shadow as the denied aspects of the self. So, basically, the shadow is all of our unconscious motives, all the unconscious motives of our actions, which we are not aware of. So, by defining and understanding these motives, we find a deeper realization within ourselves and truly understand who we are as a person and not just the persona that we give off to people. So, the main character of my film is a 17-year-old girl, and I chose to create this character because I really wanted a strong female character that just seemed very natural and genuine, but still powerful and impactful and meaningful. And usually, strong female characters in any media this day are either overly sexualized or depicted as bossy, or it's just like a weird idea of a strong female is not something that people would like to be around. So I really wanted to create someone very genuine and natural. This character is going through a process of discovery, trying to understand herself in a deeper way. And I think that is something that requires a lot of strength, but a different kind of strength that's more intrinsic and not, aggressive in a way. So I really wanted to highlight the idea that females are strong without having to seem bossy or overly sexualized to have power. So, this character doesn't represent just females, in this age group, but I wanted it to represent sort of the age group as a whole. It's a time of a person's life where they understand who they are and have to employ how they define themselves towards decisions which are for their future, like what profession are you going to go into? What are you going to study in college? Are you going to college? What college? All of this is like part of this process of discovery of who you really are and how you want to proceed to the future. So I filmed everything on my phone, which is an iPhone 6, and I edited it all on iMovie. And I just used the basic tools on iMovie to create the edits that I wanted. So the beginning is, this production company that I created. I made this. Okay, well, first of all, chiaroscuro is the treatment of light. In Italian, it means light, dark. So in art, we use this term to like explain the treatment of lights and darks and lights and shadows. So since the whole film is based around this concept of the shadow, I wanted to also include that in the production company. So this was all created out of shadows with two different light sources. And then, of course, like I wanted to show a clear shot of the name of the company. So I added the paper, which I cut out from to create the shadows. So then here we have it directed by me and then starring Luisa Rodriguez. So it begins with this sort of establishing shot of the person, of Luisa, and her name. And then there's these sort of transitions, black transitions, but they really serve the purpose of showing like the disconnection between a person and their shadow. It's very abrupt, it's very disunited on purpose to show that disconnection. Here we have very quick shots because these are all like concrete numerical ways that we define a person, and all this is very trivial. It's not really who we are. And so the shots are very quick to represent their trivialness, to sort of like their unimportance. And then of course, like still continuing with the black transitions. When it comes to this part, after the shoe size, there's sort of a change in tone.
But who really am I?
So, but who really am I? Sort of starts a new phase in the shots, which are much longer. You know, like you can see, like these are 10 seconds versus 2 or 3 seconds, which were the numerical shots of these close-ups of measurements, her measurements, which are really not who she is, but rather what we can see physically and not her emotional impact and her emotional self. So then these are very long, and it's her sort of discovering her shadow and trying to understand it, outlining it, trying to see what's really there. But of course, you know, that comes later in the film. There's still sort of this disconnection. So that's why there's still these transitions. There's still not a complete understanding of it. So then this shot is a split screen, and what I really want to show is the disconnection between her and her shadow. So she moves, but her shadow doesn't. She's still trying to understand it. And it also has sort of a double meaning because she's facing her shadow. So she's starting this process of trying to understand it by facing it. But still there's this disconnection. It's not truly, she's not truly understanding of it. And she's not fully integrated with her shadow. She's still in the process of integration. And really what I did was I used 2 reflectors, which are meant for lighting plants outside of your house, and I used those 2 reflectors to create these shadows on the white wall. I needed, a very strong light source to be able to control the shadows myself. But I also didn't want it to seem very fabricated. I wanted the shadow still to be soft and seem as if it was just coming from natural light, but it was two light sources that I used. Um, in these close-ups of the feet and the close-ups of the other measurements, I used, just simple titles, but I varied their sizes and made it a little flashy, but not very in your face, because I wanted it to all seem like very quick and very like sort of in a fleet of a moment, because it's really not what's important. So for this shot, it was very hard to get, the angle, the spacing right, because if I use too much of the left side of the screen, you could see her actual shadow. I lit it in a way so that her shadow casted to the left of her. So for the part that you see here, she was actually standing here, and I filmed just her shadow. And then for this part, you can't really see her shadow because it's really casted there. So I wanted to make it seem as though this shadow over here was her shadow. And I feel like I could have made it a little more effective, but it was a technique that I tried for the first time, and I had to change the exposure of each of the shots in order to make it seem more cohesive. Changing the exposure is just super easy. You just kind of play around with it here. So that's what I did to make it as close as possible. And that's pretty much it. Here you can see that as she's walking towards you, the shadow is getting bigger. So as she's walking away from her shadow and ignoring it, it's sort of becoming this large unconscious self, which she's unaware of. So throughout the rest of the film, she would be going through this process of truly understanding herself and her shadow and what it means.